Make no mistake about it, an economic hurricane is making landfall, and we are staring directly into the eye of the storm. Now, before your instinct kicks in to click away, before you comfort yourself with the lie that everything is sunny and your investment portfolio is invincible, I need you to pause and truly internalize what I'm saying. Everyone viewing this right now is standing at a fork in the road. You have a critical decision to make, one that will define your future. You can either brace yourself and prepare for the carnage that is approaching, or you can allow yourself to become a casualty of it. And let me be crystal clear. I have zero interest in catering to victims. My business is building champions. So, here is your first order of business. Right this second, I want you to locate that subscribe button and press it. Why is this necessary? Because the intelligence and strategies I am going to unveil in this video are worth thousands, potentially tens of thousands of dollars to your personal bottom line. If you are genuinely committed to shielding your hard-earned money and constructing wealth even while the economy burns to the ground, then you need to be locked into this community. Click subscribe, toggle on those notifications, and let's get down to business. Allow me to explain precisely how I know with absolute certainty that a recession is inbound. I have been playing this game for more than 4 decades. I have constructed massive companies from scratch. I have watched companies crumble into dust. I have amassed fortunes, and I have stood by and watched good people lose every dime they had. Without fail, every single time the market prepares to nosedive, every time the economy is on the brink of collapse, I witness the exact same red flags, the exact same behavioral patterns, and the exact same errors being repeated ad nauseum. And friends, I am looking at those exact red flags flashing neon bright right now. Do you want to know the single most catastrophic error people make? They operate under the delusion that they have time. They rationalize it by thinking, well, the stock market is still ticking upward. My home value is higher than it was 12 months ago. My employment is stable. Consequently, they continue to hemorrhage money, they continue to pile on debt, they continue to live their lives as if the party is going to last for eternity. But let me let you in on a secret about parties. They always come to an end, always. And when the lights come on for this particular party, the hangover is going to be brutal for anyone who wasn't prepared to leave early. My goal here is not to instill fear in you. Fear is a useless emotion. Fear freezes you in place. My goal is to grab you by the shoulders and shake you awake. I am here to deliver a financial slap across the face and demand that you get your house in order immediately, because the window of opportunity to fortify your position is sliding shut. With every single day that passes, with every week that you procrastinate, that window narrows. And the moment it slams shut, when the recession officially arrives, when the mass layoffs begin, and when the stock market sheds 30, 40, or 50% of its value, you are going to pray that you had heeded my warning today. So what exactly am I looking at that signals this impending doom? First, I analyze consumer debt. Do you have any concept of the mountain of debt the average American is dragging around right now? We are talking about credit cards swiped to their absolute limits, automobile loans that far exceed the actual value of the vehicles, and mortgages on homes that people have no business living in. It is absolute madness. This is the exact same behavior I witnessed right before the last major crash. People are leveraging borrowed money to prop up a lifestyle that has no foundation. When the economic engine slows down, when corporations begin to trim the fat, when jobs vanish into thin air, all of that debt transforms from a tool into a noose around your neck. The second indicator I watch is corporate earnings. Now, the mainstream media is going to feed you a narrative that everything is sunshine and rainbows. They will point to a handful of massive tech conglomerates and say, look at these record numbers. But I don't look at the surface, I dig deeper. I look at the companies that are the backbone of employment, the companies that manufacture tangible goods and provide essential services. And what I am seeing there is margin compression. I see businesses slashing their budgets, firing staff, and fighting tooth and nail just to keep their profit margins alive. That is not the symptom of a robust economy. That is the symptom of a diseased economy that is about to take a turn for the worse. Third, and this is the most critical indicator, I watch the movements of the smart money. I don't listen to what they say on TV. I watch what they do with their capital. the smart money, the institutional giants, the billionaires, the individuals who possess data and access that you and I simply do not have are moving into defensive positions. They are extracting their capital from high-risk assets. They are stockpiling cash. They are accumulating gold. They are purchasing treasury bonds. They are taking every conceivable measure to insulate their wealth. Why? Because they can see the storm clouds on the horizon. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, Kevin, I hear you loud and clear. A recession is inevitable, but what is the actionable plan? How do I shield myself? That is precisely what I am going to walk you through. But before we get to the tactics, you must grasp a fundamental truth about wealth. Wealth is not generated during the easy times. Any amateur can make money when the economy is on a rocket ship upward. A golden retriever could accidentally make a profit in a bull market. True wealth, the kind of wealth that alters your family tree for generations, is forged during the dark times. It is created by the individuals who are prepared, who hold cash when the rest of the world is panic selling, and who have the capacity to buy valuable assets when they are on the clearance rack. I have generated more profit during recessions than I ever have during the boom cycles. Why? Because I was ready, because I wasn't caught off guard, because I had a blueprint. And that is what I am handing you today. A blueprint, a strategic plan, a comprehensive roadmap to not merely survive the incoming economic winter, but to thrive in spite of it. However, there is a catch, and I need you to listen closely. This plan is effective only if you take action immediately. If you wait until the recession is knocking on your door, if you wait until the news headlines are screaming about unemployment spikes and market collapses, you are already too late. The time to board up the windows is before the hurricane makes landfall, not when the rain is pouring and the wind is tearing the roof off. You must act before. So, let me pose a question to you. What does your cash position look like at this very moment? How much capital do you have sitting in liquid assets that you can touch instantly? I'm not talking about your 401k. I'm not talking about the equity in your home. I mean cold, hard cash. If your boss walked in tomorrow and fired you, how long could you keep the lights on? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? Because I will tell you bluntly, if you do not have a runway of at least 6 months of living expenses in cash, you are not ready for what is approaching. You are exposed. And in a recession, exposed people get obliterated. This is the point where the vast majority of people fail. They hear the alarm bells, they nod in agreement, and then they proceed to do absolutely nothing. They slide right back into their spending routines, their debt accumulation, and their disastrous financial habits. And then, when the recession inevitably hits, they act shocked. They pretend they were blindsided. Well, I am not going to allow that to be your story, not if you are intelligent enough to pay attention. The very first step you need to execute, and I mean this week, not next month, not when the mood strikes you, but this week, is to construct your cash fortress. I use the word fortress deliberately because that is what it represents. It is your shield, your armor, your weapon. Cash is the king of the chessboard during a recession. Everyone repeats that phrase, but almost nobody actually practices it. People keep their wealth locked up in stocks, in real estate, in cryptocurrency, in all these assets that are going to plummet like a stone when the market crashes. And then they are left with nothing. No liquidity, no choices, no leverage. Here is my personal rule. I maintain a minimum of 20% of my total net worth in cash and cash equivalents. Now, there are people who will tell you that is insanity. They say, wait, Kevin, you are losing purchasing power to inflation. Cash is trash. Do you know what I say to them? I say, you are a fool. Because when the market corrects by 40% and I can sweep in and buy your stocks for pennies on the dollar, or when your business is insolvent and I can purchase your assets for 20 cents on the dollar, who is the fool then? Cash provides you with optionality. It grants you freedom. It gives you the power to be a buyer when the rest of the world is forced to be a seller. So, how do you go about building this cash fortress? You must slash your expenses with ruthless aggression. I want you to pull up your bank statements right now, look at every single transaction from the last 30 days, and ask yourself one binary question about every item. Is this necessary for survival? I am not asking if you enjoy it. I am not asking if you think you deserve it. Is it necessary? If the answer is no, you cut it immediately. That streaming service you watch once a month, canceled. That gym membership where you swipe your card twice a month, canceled. that car payment on a luxury vehicle that costs more than you can justify? Sell it and buy something economical. People despise hearing this advice. They think I am being cruel. They think I am telling them to live a miserable life of deprivation. But do you know what I am actually doing? I am attempting to save your financial life, because every single dollar you save right now is a soldier in your army to protect you when the chaos starts. Every dollar you save is ammunition you can use to invest when assets are dirt cheap. This isn't about being stingy. This is about being strategic. This brings us to the second critical step. You must escape the trap of bad debt. Please notice I specified bad debt. Not all debt is created equal. If you are holding a mortgage with a 3% interest rate, I am not suggesting you pay that off ahead of schedule. That is cheap money. But credit card debt at 20% interest, auto loans at 8%, high interest personal loans, that debt is actively killing you. It is a cancer eating away at your financial vitality, and you need to perform surgery to remove it right now. Here's the strategy. Write down every single debt you owe, ranking them from the highest interest rate to the lowest. Then you attack that highest rate with every ounce of financial firepower you have. Every spare dollar, every work bonus, every tax refund, it all goes toward annihilating that debt. Why? Because that debt is costing you more money than any investment in the market could possibly pay you right now. If you are paying 20% interest to a credit card company, paying that off is the mathematical equivalent of a guaranteed 20% return on your money. Show me a stock or a bond that promises a guaranteed 20% return. You can't. It does not exist. And let me tell you another truth about debt. When the recession hits, when corporations start handing out pink slips, do you know who gets crushed first? The people with debt obligations, because they are the most desperate. They have no leverage to negotiate. They cannot afford to take risks. They cannot wait for the right opportunity. They are forced to accept whatever scraps they are thrown because they have monthly payments to meet. That is a form of slavery, financial slavery, and I refuse to accept that fate for you. Before we move to the next step, I have a request. If this specific advice is resonating with you, if you are starting to see the path forward, I need you to smash that like button. Why? Because it signals the algorithm to broadcast this warning to more people. Right now, there are millions of people walking blindly toward a financial cliff because nobody has warned them. You have the power to help me reach them just by hitting that like button. The third step, and this is absolutely critical, is that you must diversify your income. The vast majority of people rely on a single source of income, their salary, and they mistake that for security. It is not security. It is extreme vulnerability. If you lose that one job, your income drops to zero in a heartbeat. And in a recession, nobody is safe. I don't care what industry you work in. I don't care how talented you think you are. Layoffs happen. Companies go under. Entire industries implode. So what is the solution? You must construct additional streams of income. Now, I am not talking about get-rich-quick scams. I am not talking about some multi-level marketing nonsense. I am talking about genuine, sustainable sources of revenue. Perhaps it is a side business. Perhaps it is rental income from a property. Perhaps it is dividend checks from your portfolio. Perhaps it is freelance consulting in your field of expertise. I don't care what form it takes, but you simply cannot rely on one way to make money. I personally have 17 different streams of income. Why? Because I refuse to be dependent on any single one. If one stream dries up, I have 16 others flowing. That is what security looks like. That is true financial independence. You don't need to start with 17, but you must have more than one. Start with 2 and build your empire from there. Now, let's discuss your investment portfolio, because this is where people make catastrophic errors. They panic, the market begins to tumble, and they sell everything at the bottom. Or even worse, they do nothing and watch their net worth get sliced in half. Both of those strategies are disasters. Here is the concept you need to understand. A recession is not the end of the world. It is a massive transfer of wealth. Wealth moves from the unprepared to the prepared, from the panicked to the patient, from weak hands to strong hands. So, what is my strategy? I shift to a defensive posture before the recession hits. That means I reduce my exposure to high-risk speculative assets. I take my profits off the table for stocks that have rallied too hard. I sell off positions that I don't have 100% conviction in, and I move that capital into defensive positions. What constitutes a defensive position? Think consumer staples, think healthcare, think utilities. These are the companies that sell things people need regardless of the state of the economy. People still need to buy groceries. They still need to turn the lights on. They still need their prescription medication. These stocks might not skyrocket during the boom times, but they don't crash and burn during the bad times. I also significantly increase my allocation to dividend-paying stocks. Why? Because dividends provide you with cash flow even when the stock price itself is dropping. And if you are smart enough to reinvest those dividends during a recession, you are automatically buying more shares at lower prices. That is how you compound wealth. That is how you emerge from a recession far richer than when you entered it. But here is the master key, the factor that separates the winners from the losers. You must have cash ready to deploy when the panic reaches its peak. When the market is down 30, 40, or 50% and every headline is screaming that the financial system is collapsing, that is your signal to buy. That is when you go shopping. That is when you acquire incredible companies at fire sale discounts, but you can only execute this if you have the cash. If you are fully invested when the crash happens, you are paralyzed. You are stuck watching the opportunity of a lifetime pass you by. I have executed this play multiple times in my career. In every recession, in every market crash, I have made a fortune, not because I possess a higher IQ than everyone else, not because I have a magical crystal ball, but because I was prepared, because I held cash, because I had a plan, and while the rest of the world was in a panic, I was aggressively buying. Now let me address something that nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to understand. I'm talking about your career, your job, the primary thing that pays your bills today. In a recession, your value to your employer is going to be put under a microscope. And if you are not prepared, if you are not indispensable, your name is going to be on the chopping block. It is that simple. Companies do not fire their best people. They fire their most expensive people and their least productive people. So, which category do you fall into? Here is your assignment starting tomorrow morning. You must make yourself invaluable. You need to find ways to generate direct revenue for your company. You need to find ways to reduce their costs. You need to volunteer for the projects that nobody else wants to touch. You must become the person that your boss cannot imagine operating without. Because when the layoffs arrive, and they will arrive, decisions are made in about 30 seconds. The boss looks at a list of names and asks a single question. Can I afford to lose this person? If the answer is yes, you are gone. And let me tell you something else. You need to be networking right now, not the day you lose your job, not when you are desperate and sweating now. You need to be cementing relationships in your industry. You need to be visible. You need to be a known quantity, because if you do get laid off, the only thing that is going to save you is your network. Salvation won't come from sending resumes into the black hole of the internet. It will come from a phone call from someone who knows you, who trusts you, and who wants to bring you on board. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because you invested the time to build those bridges before you needed to cross them. This leads me to the second request I have for you. I need you to subscribe to this channel and officially become a member. Why? Because this video is just the opening act. I am going to be releasing deep dive content on how to navigate this specific recession, specific investment ideas, tactical strategies, and real-time updates on what I am seeing in the market data. But I can only deliver that to you if this channel grows. If you want a seat at the table for that information, you need to be part of this community. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, become a member. Now, I am going to tell you about the single biggest opportunity that a recession creates, and most people completely miss it. I'm talking about real estate. When the economy tanks, when people lose their employment, when they can no longer service their mortgages, real estate prices collapse. And that is the moment when smart investors secure generational wealth. I am not talking about flipping houses for a quick buck. I'm not talking about speculation. I am talking about acquiring rental properties at massive discounts and holding them for the long haul. Here is the logic behind why this works. During a recession, people who lose their homes still need a roof over their heads. They transition from owners to renters. Consequently, the demand for rentals actually increases during recessions. At the same time, property acquisition prices are going down. So you are buying assets at low prices and renting them out at stable or increasing rates. That is a beautiful economic combination. But Here is the catch. You need cash to execute this. You need a down payment. You need financial reserves. You need the ability to close on properties when banks have tightened their lending standards and aren't giving money to anyone else. This is why every single step I have outlined so far matters. The cash fortress you built, the bad debt you eliminated, the side income you created, it all converges to give you the capacity to act when the opportunity presents itself. While everyone else is paralyzed by fear, while everyone else is broke, you are ready to pounce. You are ready to purchase assets that are going to pay you for the next 20, 30, or 40 years. Let me get personal for a moment. I have lived through multiple recessions over the course of my career. I have seen people lose everything they worked for. I have seen families torn apart. I have seen successful individuals end up in bankruptcy court. And do you know what the common denominator was? They weren't prepared. They operated under the assumption that the good times would last forever. They leveraged themselves to the hilt. They spent every dollar that came through the door. And when the recession hit, they had no cushion, no backup plan, no escape route. But I have also witnessed the opposite. I have seen people who emerged from recessions as newly minted millionaires, people who bought businesses for pennies, people who accumulated massive real estate portfolios, people who built wealth that changed the trajectory of their family for generations. And the common denominator there, they were ready. They made sacrifices during the good times so they could prosper during the bad times. They understood that you do not get rich by following the herd. You get rich by doing what the herd refuses to do. So here is my final challenge to you. I want you to make a definitive decision right now. Are you going to be a victim or are you going to be a victor? Are you going to allow this recession to ruin you or are you going to utilize it to construct your wealth? Because it is one or the other. There is no middle ground here. The recession is arriving whether you like it or not. The only variable in the equation is how prepared you are. Starting today, I want you to implement every single strategy I have laid out. Build that cash position, slash those expenses, kill that toxic debt, diversify your income streams, make yourself indispensable at your job, build your professional network, get your investments positioned defensively. And then when the crash comes, when everyone else is in a state of panic, you are going to be calm. You are going to be ready. You are going to be shopping for deals while they are selling in desperation. This is not a theoretical exercise. This is not something I read in a textbook. This is exactly what I have done multiple times in my career. This is how I built my wealth. This is how I have survived and thrived through every economic downturn history has thrown at me. And if you follow this plan, if you actually do the work, instead of just nodding your head and forgetting about it by tomorrow morning, you can achieve the exact same result. Third, and finally, I need you to share this video, send it to your friends, text it to your family, post it on your social media feeds. Why? Because the people you care about need this information just as much as you do. Maybe they won't listen to you, but maybe they will listen to me. Maybe this video will be the wake-up call that saves their financial life. You have the power to help them, so use it. Let me leave you with this final thought. Recessions are inevitable. They are a natural part of the economic cycle. They have happened before and they will happen again. But they do not have to be devastating. In fact, for the prepared, for the smart, for the disciplined, recessions are the greatest wealth building opportunities that exist on this planet. The key is preparation. The key is action. The key is doing what I have told you today before it is too late. The clock is ticking. Every day you wait is a day you can never get back. Every week you procrastinate is a week closer to the crash. Don't be the person who looks back 6 months from now and says, I wish I had listened to Kevin. Be the person who looks back and says, thank God I took action when I had the chance. Your financial future is entirely in your hands. Nobody is coming to rescue you. Not the government, not your employer, not your family. It is on you. So take control, take action, do the work. Build your fortress. And when the storm comes, you will be safe inside while everyone else is getting destroyed. That is the difference between winners and losers. That is the difference between wealth and poverty. That is the difference between you 6 months from now being broke or being positioned to build generational wealth. The choice is yours. Make the right one. I'll see you in the next video.